Good evening. Welcome to the March 11th, 2021 meeting. We're going to start with the Selectmen, then it'll be a joint meeting with the Finance Committee, and then we'll go back to the Selectmen's meeting. So first on the agenda, we've got to continue a special permit hearing to consider the application of David A. Rouse for property located at 82 Interlaken Road, owned by Bright Star Omega LLC Series BC/O, the corporation, trust company, incorporated trust center. I'll make a motion to open the hearing. All in favor? So you're here.
How are you?
So let's start with who's here for the
Okay,
Want to
for the record, my name is
Okay.
Lori Robbins, the attorney for the applicant. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Lori.
You're on.
All right, good evening. So for the record, my name is Lori Robbins, law firm Heller and Robbins. Representing the applicant is David A. Brous, manager of 82 Interlaken LLC. With us tonight is David and Cheryl Brous. They are the members of the Interlaken LLC. Also here with us tonight is Brent White, their engineer, and Rich Holden, their architect. The Brouses, you may know, are members of our community. They moved to the Stockbridge Bowl in 2010 and own a nice house on the Stockbridge Bowl. They love it so much, they'd like to invest in another parcel of land to build a house for their family compound. So they are under contract to purchase 3 lots in a formerly subdivided subdivision plan, but they're under contract to buy all 3 of the lots that are about 12 acres of land. They're proposing to use one of the lots to develop into a family compound. On that lot is an existing structure, little cottage built in 1954, 59.
Should be home.
And in that
Should be home.
in that neighborhood, there are, this is the off of 183. In that neighborhood on the Stockbridge Bowl, there are a number of other parcels of land that formerly had small little cottages that have subsequently been taken down, and new dwellings have been erected in that area. This parcel of land, which is a very large tract of land on the Stockbridge Bowl, is fully compliant with current zoning acreage, frontage, front yard setback, side yard setback. But why the reason we're before you tonight is because the rear yard, were this not to be on the Stockbridge Bowl, the structure would comply with the rear yard setback. However, because it's on the Stockbridge Bowl, there's a 150-foot setback. The existing structure is 78 feet from the bowl. So therefore, this is an application for an expansion of alteration of a pre-existing non-conforming. I'm happy to announce that this applicant has done a lot of planning with their engineer and their architect. They've been before the Stockbridge Historic Preservation Commission. They approved the application for the demolition of the existing house, which is basically uninhabitable. That was approved in September of 2020. They met with the Conservation Commission on a number of occasions, and through the process of a committee, they had revised their original plans to be a smaller and a different configuration. And the Stockbridge Conservation Commission has approved their notice of intent. Subsequently, they went to the Stockbridge Planning Board and had a number of meetings at the site and hearings. And as a result of the Stockbridge Planning Board's concerns about the LPOD, they had revised, subsequent to my application to your board, some of the configuration of this land. So what I had filed with you were 11 by 17 plans showing the house and its configuration and the site plan. However, as a result of the Conservation Commission's concerns, they have decided to move the pool and the accessory structure out of the LPOD. And as a result of that, the Stockbridge Planning Board voted to approve their special permit in the LPOD last Tuesday. So what you have before you are altered plans that are the plans that were approved by the Stockbridge Planning Board, but they are in your, they should be before you on full-size plans. Those show a
Yes, we do.
reconfigured property that the closest to the bowl is the exact location where the existing structure was. So this new proposed house, which will be a 5-bedroom house, and there's an accessory structure where, well, you want to put your rest of your family, your teenagers to go visit. That's an accessory structure across the driveway that has an additional 2 bedrooms and another family room. There will be a pool out of the LPOD and a garage. So the proposed improvements at 3.42 lot coverage are well within your 10% lot coverage, and the mass at 3.96% are well within the 20%. So it's my suggestion to you that the reconfigured house does comply with your special permit requirements, that it will be in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the bylaw, which is to improve the land. Reconstruction of the pre-existing non-conforming structure will allow for improvements to the neighborhood, as the camp style structure built in 1959 is uninhabitable, and the new structure will be much more architecturally pleasing. The proposed structures are on a relatively large lot for the residential neighborhood and will not be visible from the road. The design of the new house will be consistent with other residences in the neighborhood and will not be detrimental to the adjacent residential uses or established or future character of the neighborhood. Since the proposed structure is a single-family home, the traffic associated with that will be consistent with other residences in the neighborhood. The applicant was able to get a photograph that they took from the Stockbridge Bowl of the existing conditions, and Cheryl Browse's sister, who's an architect, superimposed what the new structure would look like from the bowl based upon the plans. So we will show you that. I also want to suggest to you that the Browses have been in close contact with their closest abutters, the Cohens to the north and the Kramers to the south, both of whom are in full support of this plan and wholly encourage it. I don't know if they're going to be here on, I don't know that I've looked to see if they're on, but they were, they joined us for the planning board meetings and sent an email saying they're in full support of this project. If you have any questions regarding the house or would like to see more of the plans, do you have them in front of you?
Yes.
Yes, we have them. I looked at them.
Okay, so you see the house as reconfigured will be no closer to the rear yard setback and are fully compliant with all the other requirements of the zoning bylaw. So Brent, if you'd like to show them the survey plan, I presume they have that as well, but we can put it up on the screen for everybody else to see. The survey plan that shows, that's even better. Okay, here's the survey plan. So outlined in yellow is the lot that they will be using to place their, well, where the existing house is. So where they will be putting their new structure. So there's the existing house. It's 78 feet from the Stockbridge Bowl, and this will be no closer to the bowl than that 78 feet. This property does have the benefit of a right of way through the neighbor's property, the Kramer's property. They will be using that to build their house. At some point in the future, there's conversation between the Kramers and the Browses to build a new driveway servicing this lot entirely on the existing, on their lot. However, there are some wetlands issues that may require some additional modifications. So that's in the future, but before you is this application to build on lot 3 shown there. If you want to also show the site plan that Brent White has that shows where these various components, there's the footprint of the existing house in red. And then there's the outline in yellow that shows the proposed new structure on the same angle. So it's angled away. It's not going to be straight facing the Stockbridge Bowl. There's a number of trees in the area. They're going to be planting a lot more trees in addition to taking out some old dying trees and some invasive and planting some newer trees. This has been intensely engineered to address the Stockbridge Bowl concerns for runoff and rain gardens. The pool will be, there's the rain gardens. So all the runoff calculations have been addressed to the planning board's concerns. In the back here is the pool and the accessory structure out of the LPOD. Then if you have show some pictures of the house. Beautiful. So here's the plans by Richard Holden. They haven't decided exactly on the color of the house, but it will be earth tones. But you'll see it's on an angle built into the site. And because it's up on a hill with the several trees around it, this will not be as visible to the bowl. So the next picture, I'd love to see the existing. So that's an existing view from the Stockbridge Bowl. That's the existing house. And to the left is the Kramer house. To the right is the Cohen's house. And then if you'll show now the superimposed house as you just saw it on the same site, it is there. It's a large property, lots of trees, lots of screening. But as you can see, it's a large lot with the new house being
Can you
proposed.
zoom in on that a little? We just can't really see it from here because we're far away.
Ah, okay.
It's part of the point.
Yeah, if you're on the boat, you can't see it. If you're boating around, you really can't see it. So that's what the new sized house would look like if you were floating around on the Stockbridge Bowl, in proportion to the rest of the neighborhood. So I would suggest that you can make the finding that this will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure. As you see, most of the other houses, in fact, almost all of the other houses. And Brent can also show you some photographs of the other houses that I took this past week or 2 weeks ago from the Stockbridge Bowl that shows other houses in the neighborhood. That's the Cohen house directly to the north. That's the Kramer house directly to the south. That's the existing house. That's the existing house from the bowl.
And that's what we have for
That's
photos.
what you have. Okay. So I had
Good.
also taken some other pictures of the other houses along the way. And you may know them, the Winter house. There's a couple who named Winter who also have received special permit. The Seltzer property.
Is that the one you saw the for sale sign on?
I don't think so. Clapper House and the Epler House, all along the Stockbridge Bowl, are all homes that had formerly had small little cottages on them, and they have subsequently built some beautiful homes right there. You can't see them from the road, but you can see them from the Stockbridge Bowl. But this is the neighborhood we're talking about. So for those reasons, we're asking your board to give us a special permit for an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming. The only non-conformity is the rear yard setback.
Any questions, Patrick?
I actually have a question for Michael, if you would mind providing us with the guidance of what the bylaws state in terms of, what this board's obligations are.
Well, as far as the findings, Lori went through all of the issues and addressed each one of them specifically on how these fit within those, each of those findings. So this property does meet all the requirements as set forth.
And also all the conditions that require us to permit. I only point that out because, obviously you all have been to the many meetings that have occurred between all the various commissions and boards. And we've also, I'm sure you too, been been called by some other residents who have discussed house size with us. And I just wanted to point out that our bylaws give us flexibility on some items, but do not give us flexibility if the lot coverage and square footage meets the ratio of the lot size, then it's my understanding this is permittable and it's required to be permitted. And so I just wanted to point out that I personally am a fan of clear regulations, because then it removes the arbitrary nature of this kind of decision. So I don't have any questions for you, and I'm prepared to act if you guys are.
I just have one question. I didn't see the planning board decision. Were any special conditions placed on this by the planning board?
I don't recall there being any special conditions, no.
Okay,
Any comment from the public? Seeing none, I make,
Actually, just one other little comment. We're working on saving some trees elsewhere in town, and I noticed when I did the site visit for Concom that you do have some mature ash trees, and if I'm trying to encourage, with mature trees, there are treatments that you could inject into trees if they're not too far gone. You might take a look at that if you want to save some of them rather than take them out. Of course, it's completely up to you. That's it.
I make a motion to accept the special permit for 82 in Lincoln Road.
I'll second the motion.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good luck.
All right.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Take action on the minutes of February 11th, 21, and February 18th, 21, and February 25th, 21. Make a motion, we accept the minutes of those meetings.
Second. Yeah, sorry. I'm just.
All in favor? Aye. Now we'll go to the joint meeting with the finance committee. So Jay, you got a little business to do first, or you're ready to hop into the budgets? Jay's got on mute.
Sorry
There you go.
about that, folks. I
problem.
thank the chairman very much for introducing the joint meeting. I'd like to thank the select board for their support of the budget process to date, and the finance committee for their participation and involvement. And most importantly, I'd like to thank Michael Canales for all his efforts in the preparation of the draft and the capital requests to date. So with that, we kick off the joint meeting. We asked the Finance Committee for approval of the February 25th meeting minutes.
So moved. I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, thank you. And there is one correction. Hang on one. The one correction is that Bill Vogt was not there. I inadvertently marked him present, and I apologize, Bill. So he will. We will make that editorial change. Okay. Moving on, what we plan to do in the next few minutes.
You
is
need to vote.
Yes, I'm sorry, forgive me. We'll have to take a roll call vote, basically because of the, thank you, Jim, because of the Zoom. Jim,
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
Neil,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and Bill,
Abstain.
and myself, I vote yes. So that's unanimous. Thank you. What we plan to do in the next few minutes relative to the operating budget and capital items is we are going to talk about the highway department operating budget as well as the fire department operating budget. And Michael, do you want to deal with the capital requests from these two departments as part of the operating budget, or save that till the end with all the other capital items?
I would think that we could address the capital items for those departments so they don't have to stay through to that part.
Okay, that's fine. If I might, we could start off with the highway department. Would that be okay, Michael?
Yep.
The highway department, basically, in the salary information have been circulated, has noted a reduction of $75,709 in the operating budget, the salaries for the highway personnel. And much of that relates to, you could see that Michael has put it up on the screen. That relates to the vacant position of the superintendent, okay? And also, the expenses for the highway department are level funded for projected fiscal year 22. So with that, we're talking basically about let's see if I have the, do you have the totals there, Michael? There, he's got them on the screen. You can see them all together with the, no, that's the, I was looking for
The highway salaries, the overall is coming down
Yeah.
about $75,000.
Yeah, that's what I said, right, 75,709.
Yep.
And the expenses are level funded. Do you
Are
wanna-
pretty much level funded. I mean, we have Hugh Page, who's on this call here. I think the overall discussion has been to leave it level. We'll begin examining this budget after he's had a year underneath his belt to see how things shake out, and then make adjustments as we go forward in future years.
Any questions from anybody on this?
Mike, I think I've asked you this before, but I just want to clarify. Do any of our bylaws or contracts require us to have a highway superintendent? And if so?
No.
No.
No, we have in the wording right now, and we're in negotiations right now, so everything will be lined up. We have the highway, right now it's labeled as a highway foreman, how we end up labeling it going into next year. But our memorandum of understanding when things changed and we moved to with the union is that all duties that fall described as either some were director, some were superintendent, some were supervisor, would all fall to him, regardless of how they were named in any other contracts. So we are completely covered that way.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from anybody relative to this? At that point, I think we can leave this matter at this time. Obviously, this will come up when the Finance Committee votes its recommendation on the entire operating budget. But from my perspective, I have no further comment on that. And I thank Michael for a job well done.
We're going to do the capital.
On the capital side, we have a projected request for a Ford 650 large truck replacement vehicle. These vehicles run about $145,000. Michael, tell us, is this a vehicle that we use for plowing?
Yes, this would be one of our vehicles that we use for plowing. So I met with Hugh, we went over this, and Hugh, feel free to jump in at any point. What I did is I did lay out a projected truck fleet with Hugh, where every 5 years we would look at replacing. So we have 2 trucks that we have that are 650s or their equivalent with full plowing gear, sanders, hydraulics, everything you need on them. Roughly, you're looking at around 145,000 fully equipped. And then we also would be coming back probably next year for an F-350 or its equivalent, one of the smaller trucks. And to outfit those, we're looking at in the neighborhood of $80,000 as far as fully equipped. These are our plow vehicles, and then we would have one larger truck, which would come up every 10 years for replacement. So looking at this, I know there's some questions as to how we're going to address purchasing this. One of the things I did take from one of the previous meetings was if we were to basically spread out, so every 5 years, we're purchasing a new 650, and then once we get into the cycle on the 350 or equivalent at those prices, including escalators, that if we budget these with 5-year notes and keep rolling the notes forward, we end up with a budget that is, you can see here, the first year we'd only have 1 truck coming in, but then once we get 2 trucks in, the budget would pretty much stay level going forward. Obviously, trucks costs go up, so you're gonna have a little bit of escalation. But overall, we're looking at about $50,000 over the next 10 years with a 5-year note to carry. And you can see that I color coded the different color notes right here. So you'd have 5 years of one vehicle, then 5 years of the next one, and just continue that cycle. This would guarantee that the vehicles on year 11, we'd be either moving them to a secondary use, but get them off of being our front line plow vehicles. So we thought that this would be the best route to go. It keeps our fleet in good condition. Obviously, these trucks take a good beating being out there, salting, sanding, and everything else. And this would allow us to have a strong fleet going forward for the highway department.
Michael, if I could interject and open this up for discussion. One thing I would call to the committee, the finance committees and the select board's attention, the joint committee, is that we have for this period free cash of 1.851 million. And with a number of the capital items that we will discuss, that's brought down to 1.431 million. In other words, 420,000 is spent on capital items from free cash. Now, the option here is either, as Michael has suggested, we take out 5-year notes, or while we have the free cash, we invest, for example, for this vehicle, 145,000 in that vehicle and buy it outright. And I would open that up to the committee and welcome your comments.
Well, Jay, may I just make a comment? Our committee several years ago recommended to the Board of Selectmen and to the town administrator that wherever possible, the recurring capital expenditures be included in budgets rather than in special articles. And that came up in conjunction with a discussion about the recurring need for replacement of police vehicles.
Correct.
And that has been done. And I think that Michael's suggestion to do that here using what are called State House notes at very low interest rates is a very good one. Now, Jay, to your point, I think that and so I do like to see this kind of budgeting where you have recurring expense included in the budget itself when you know it's going to happen. But I think until we come to the end of the discussion about all of the capital items, it's very difficult to make any judgments about the choice of financing until we see everything. Because it may be that that we will spend more from free cash than what is anticipated right now. So I'd like to defer that part of the discussion. I'm certainly in favor of replacing these trucks,
Absolutely.
these vehicles when they are, as they come to the end of their useful lives. And I like the way this budget is done. It's exactly the way that capital budgeting should be done. So those are my comments.
Okay, and I think that's a very valid point. Any other comments relative to that? So basically, administration management has raised the issue that we do need the vehicle. Obviously, our vehicles have taken a beating with the lack of garaging, with the completion of the new facility. So I'm comfortable saving that until we have the entire capital budget and operating budget pretty well put together. Anybody have any issues on that?
I agree.
I
Okay,
agree too.
okay, so it general consensus. The choice of financing to be determined, okay?
So I just want to point out, Michael has made recommendations on the choice of financing. It's in the budget document that everyone has. So, yeah, we can deviate from that, but yeah, there is a recommendation in place.
Fine. I would call for a motion on the recommendation to defer the specific financing, be it capital or operating from free cash, until the entire capital budget is put together. Can I have a second?
Second.
I don't think that we need a motion.
I didn't think so either.
I don't think we need any action. We're just deferring it. We're going to do this at the end of the process. That's all.
That was my reaction. Are you comfortable with that, Patrick?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not making a decision tonight anyway, so.
All right, so let's leave it that there is no concern relative to acquisition of the equipment. The choice of the financing will be developed as we move a little further down the road. Okay? Anything else, Michael, relative to highway?
I don't have anything else. I'm not sure if Hugh has anything he would like to state at this point.
I do not, no.
Do we? You're on there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah,
Hi, Hugh.
yes, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just believe that, with the amount of snow and storms that we get now and the size of them, and the nature of them, that we can actually, do the same thing with, running cheaper per lane mile with a smaller truck. I believe the smaller 550, class truck is too small by the time you suit it up and put, media on it and go out and do the road. So a truck in between, would probably fit a lot better. It'd be cheaper per lane mile to run it, and also the cost of purchasing it. And when its life cycle is up, to replace it will be a lot cheaper than the bigger trucks. Although we will have to keep, a bigger truck around, at least at the end. So, I'm excited.
Hugh, for those of us who don't know what you're talking about, is the 650 the smaller truck, or is the 650 the larger giant truck?
I was just gonna clarify. So right now, the fleet has two larger trucks, two medium trucks, which would be 650s or
Okay.
equivalent. One medium and then two smaller. As we move on in time, we're gonna go two smaller, two medium, and one large.
Okay.
These 650s Hugh feels like these would be the best model, like he said, around lane miles and everything else, plus how much they can carry in the rest, that for the roads that we have, plus narrow roads and everything else. We met for quite a while, right, Hugh, on this, and we thought this was the best measure.
I just wasn't sure if there was a 575 or a 600 that were.
No, they go in the 350, 450, 550, 650, but the 650 is really a commercial heavy-duty hauling vehicle with a heavier frame, so that's why Hugh recommended it.
Excuse me if I might, we would leave this in the hands of highway with you, Michael, for the recommendation. The initial recommendation came forward with the 650. If you consider changing that, you can bring that forward at any time in this whole capital planning. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
So let's leave it at that. But we need the vehicle. I think that's the key issue. Okay. Anything else on highway before we move on to fire? Anything else?
No, good job.
Okay. Chief Garofoli, are you with us?
Yeah, good evening. How are you guys hearing me?
Okay, yep. Basically, I might just kick this subject off if I can. The fire department operating budget has increased due to an item, what be it operating or capital hose replacement. Okay, salaries are pretty much level funded, pretty much the same, but they're one of the issues with fire is the issue of hose replacement. Now, a point should be made relative to this, is that A, do we have any stock of replacement hoses to date? And B, what about testing the hoses that we have relative to replacing them so that we can put a more accurate figure on the cost? Vinny, you want to comment on that?
All right, so that's kind of multifocal, but I'll start with the beginning on the testing subject. Testing, they're required to be tested annually, and they are tested annually. During that testing, we lose about 300 feet a year to failure. And since I've been involved, we've lost almost exactly that. It's 800 feet total. It's spread out over multiple diameters of hose because we carry multiple diameters. So some years you may lose one diameter, the next year you may lose a couple from a different diameter hose. But overall, we've lost 800 feet of hose since I've been involved, and we lose about 300 a year. And as the hose, NFPA suggests 10 years. A lot of our hose is 20 years old or older. We do have stuff that's within that 10 years. But we are running a lot that is greater than 20 years or close to that mark. And as they age and as they are used over time, they do tend to fail. So the prediction of 300 feet is at least a safe estimate as to how much we're going to lose per year. But I honestly believe that we're going to start losing more, probably closer to 500 to 700 feet a year in the coming years as these hoses age past 20 to 25 years. With that being said, the number that you're seeing right there of 16,000 is a one-time number. It's anticipated to cut in half or even greater in following years. The reason why it's 16 this year is to make up for the 800 feet or more hose that we have lost in the past few years, and the prediction that by the time this budget goes into effect, we're going to be coming into the next hose testing round where we're going to lose another 300 to 400 feet even too. So it's to make up for the hose that we're going to lose. And it's also to switch over to a newer nozzle on our main line attack piece. And in order to do that, I'd have to outfit the whole engine with these nozzles because they're a lower pressure nozzle than what we're running. So if I run a lower pressure nozzle on every nozzle on the truck, then I can down the pressure that's going to the firefighters at the nozzle down lower. What that means in layman's terms is it's easier for them to handle the hose, maneuver the hose, and operate the hose, and it's less wear and tear on the pump by operating at a lower pressure and lower RPM. If I don't replace all the nozzles at once, I'm not going to be able to maintain a single lower pressure for everything that's operating. So that hose number isn't just hoses, it's hoses and nozzles. And the reason why it is high, like I said, is because you're replacing hose that's failed in the past, plus what you're predicting to fail this year, and the nozzles to outfit one engine. So in future years,
if I might interject one point, the number that you're talking about is $16,000. Is that a correct?
This year,
Okay.
Subsequent years will be cut in half or more.
And I think a thought with this, if I might, is that do we fund this on an as-needed basis? For example, we put this money into a reserve fund, and when the situation presents itself, you would come to the select board and the finance committee, and we pay for it that way and keep it out of the operating budget per se. Michael, any thoughts on that?
Well, it's obviously an option that can be placed, and then the money could be held there, and then Chief, as he gets his loss reports when they're tested, could come forward with the replacement costs and present it to the finance committee. And
I thought we weren't supposed to earmark specific items in our reserve fund. I mean, I'd be happy doing the reserve fund for this year. I believe we are going to end up with, 80,000-90,000 currently with what's left in the reserve fund, but I don't think we should be earmarking items in future reserve funds.
Oh,
Right.
Well, I think the point
talking 300 feet of hose. That's 3 or 4 lengths of hose. That's not a massive amount of hose. Was this hose 80 or 90? That's in the 80s, 90s on the trucks, or was that spare hose?
Some of it was on the truck, some of it was spare. in order for me to give you exactly what lengths failed and what their locations were, I'd have to go back through each and every report to pull that. But I don't have that information available for you this evening.
It's a very minimum amount of hose. We did a massive amount of hose replacement not too long ago. What do you got for spare hose for the newer hose?
The newer hose, in terms of spare hose, it's only the 2-inch that we really have in 3 sections of 5. So what that means for layman's terms for people that aren't me and Chairman Cardillo is the larger supply hose, the hose that you see running from engine to engine is the 5-inch hose. The 2-inch hose that I'm referring to is the typical hose that you see stretched from a fire engine to a house to put out a fire.
I think I'd like to leave it at this juncture with the thought that we evaluate the need for the hose, number one, and do we put it as an expense on the operating line or in the reserve fund for this year until we can get a better assessment of the stock on our vehicles? That would be my thinking. Any comments?
I think aside from the chief and the chairman, I don't believe anybody on this call is qualified to make this call, and I would like to defer to them.
I do have a question, and it concerns the capital budget, Jay, which you sent around to us several days ago, which shows a fire hose nozzle replacement amount of $40,642. And I'm not sure that I understand how that relates, if at all. It may be a totally separate item from the $16,000 for fire hose and nozzles. And I'd just like to understand that.
Michael?
And correct me if I'm wrong, chief, but the original ask from the fire chief was that we do a capital for fire and nozzle hose replacement. And then it was also brought up as to just getting this, if it's going to become a reoccurring into the budget. So what you see is this would be a proposal to make it a reoccurring this first year 16 and then a number in there for next year going forward of just a annual fire hose and nozzle replacement instead of. So you did see it show up in both places, but it will only end up being either one or the other, either a capital and we just outright replace, or we make it an annual. One of the concerns I had with just outright replacing would be the same thing if we went to do replace all the DPW trucks the same year. I don't necessarily want us replacing things in the same year so that things are failing all at the same time. So after further talk, chief came back with this proposal, which would be a higher number in this first year. And then he had referred to me about probably around 8,000 annually going forward for the next 3 or 4 years, which when you put it together would be about that $40,000. So either a one-time funding or a multi-year operational fund, and then that line would come down further, and then going forward, hose replacement would just be part of the annual fire budget. I hope that answers your question.
I personally like the multi-year approach myself.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question.
Go ahead, Jim.
There was a reason why he put 40,000 in, as I understand it. My question would be, what happens, say, next year after we've only funded however many feet of hose once it's established that we need them? What happens if we have hose failure next year or the year after when we have, tried to spread the cost of this out over several years? The last thing I want to see is a failure of hoses causing a house to burn down.
Well, the hose is tested every year. Once it's tested, it's put back in the truck.
But what
And
happens
that's-
next year? What happens? I'm just asking. I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question. What happens next year if you've approved and we've bought the appropriate number of feet of hose and they run that out next year, and even after they've tested it, but the hose is old and bango, the hose fails.
They come to us for a reserve fund transfer.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
Exactly
reserve.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good.
If you're talking 2, 3, 4 lengths of hose a year, the quantity of hose you have, the percentage is so low. I mean, I'm saying it's just, so I don't understand where replacing $40,000 worth of hose when it's all tested and passed, that's very seldom used, is, I think we got other things to look at. If it needs to be, it needs to be, but at this point,
And I,
I don't believe that we're in a desperate desire situation with fire hose. Because we replaced, I don't know, we replaced almost everything not too long ago. Like I said, it's very seldom used, it's tested every year.
Well,
Yeah,
how do you feel about, though, having it in the budget?
I think I would just assume go to, if there's just a massive failure, which it shouldn't be, just do a line item transfer, because, I mean, I like, but come for a request for surplus money.
yeah, and,
Okay.
It wouldn't be denied, but it's just, yeah, it's just, that's my opinion.
And I would like the current chief, because chief, you were comfortable with either one, either a multi-year approach or a single purchase approach.
Right.
Correct. Yes,
Right.
and the reason why it was put in two places, like Administrator Canales had explained, was because we were looking at two possible approaches, looking to potentially settle on one or the other, depending on what the recommendations of the Select Board and Finance Committee were this evening. And although I do agree with Chairman Cardillo in the fact that we are not in an emergency with fire hose, the fire hose that we're seeing that's failing isn't always the older stuff. We're actually seeing more failures in the stuff that was replaced in 2014 that he was referencing than the older stuff from the 80s and 90s. So we're getting a blend of failures that aren't just the oldest hose. So to touch on the other board member from the Finance Committee's concerns, I don't think we really addressed that. You run the risk of failure with fire hose on any incident. But when they pass the NFPA test is going to pressurize those hoses to such an extreme pressure that you're never going to see on the fire ground, under the assumption that you shouldn't have a fire ground failure. Most of the time when you see a fire ground failure, and I'm sure Chairman Cardillo can say this as well, you're seeing damage. You're seeing something that's been run over, something that's been cut, something that's been dragged across something it shouldn't have, not necessarily a failure from pressure if it's been properly tested. Some departments that haven't had a good testing cycle will see failures at couplings and other things where it hasn't been tested. But for most departments that test their hose to the NFPA standard, most of your failures are occurring from incidences on the fire ground that don't pertain to pressure. Does that satisfy what you were looking for, sir?
Yes,
I was just going to say, Vinny, I think the point is that, you know, either we budget the 16,000 in the operating budget, or if you want it in the reserve fund, which would give you an additional cushion should you need more hose, or a combination of both. I would leave it to discussions with you and Michael, you know, as to.
Jay, I have a quick question though. You know, we're really talking about two things here. The chief started talking about the low pressure nozzles. What percentage of the 16,000 is these low pressure nozzles? Obviously, with a 60+ average age of our fire department, keeping the hoses easier to manage might make a lot of sense. So I do think that we should make sure whatever we're doing, that if that's the recommendation, that we refit the structure of the nozzles.
That may be out of his regular operating budget. That's where we'll get to too, because that stuff's in the regular operating budget, equipment, buying supplies. I think we got to look at it a little deeper. Let's
So
make a decision tonight, but
Chuck, you feel this should be in the operating budget? Was that your comment?
I would hold off on that and talk more with Mike and the chief and stuff on that $16,000.
And I have a question about the $20,000 above it, purchase replacement equipment. What equipment is that pertaining to?
All right, I'm gonna answer the first question first, which was in regards to what percentage of that 16 is the nozzles. The percentage of the 16 that is the nozzles is 9,000, so it would be just over 50% of that. And that would replace all the nozzles on engine 2, which is our primary attack truck, to 55 PSI nozzles, which would bring the overall operating pressure of the engine, depending on the length of hose that's out there, at 100 or below 100 PSI. Now, Selectman McCaffrey, yours was on the 20,000, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So of that 20,000, we have some pagers and radios that are being replaced. We have a couple Ansel fire extinguishers we need to add on. We have a multi-gas meter. We have a carbon monoxide meter. We have some couplings and adapters to outfit engine 5. We have an airbag system components because the airbag system that we have on Rescue 1 currently, we can't expand on because they've discontinued it. So we have to replace that system with a different system, and just to replace it with what we've got with some of that. And then some of the Jaws of Life items that we have on the rescue are also coming to the point where they're unable to be serviced any further. They will test them each year, but if there's broken parts, they have to be taken out of service. So I was trying to replace one of those items each year sequentially. And that's where the 20,000 came from instead of 10. There was more items added in to be replaced. The multi-gas meter, they are discontinuing that model that we run, and they're anticipating they're not going to have parts for them within 2 years after that. So I'm trying to phase out those multi-gas meters with newer meters that will be projected to be in service for 10 to 12 years.
How does that differ from vehicle repairs and maintenance? You seem like you just talked about a whole lot of vehicle issues. Just,
That's more equipment than.
oh, it is, okay. All right, good, never mind.
What's the inspection fees? Because that's something new.
So that was new last year, not this year. And what that is that's making sure that we have NFPA manuals, and that's for conferences, certifications, and further training. Some of this stuff I have to take classes for if I want to maintain certifications. So some of it I have to pay for classes. And that's where that came from.
Anything else? Roxanne, did that answer your question on the 20,000?
Yes.
Okay, anything else relative to the expense, equipment expense?
We're going to talk about the salary changes or no?
This is the salary component you're pulling up, Michael?
Yep.
You pull that.
So from these would be all the monies associated with the fire department.
So the sheet on we got a sheet called,
Right, and then let me call up, there was a additional.
yes,
Yeah, I thought that was off the table.
Oops, sorry. So you can look at that one, and then Chief also submitted a just get this one. Oops. Oh, stop sharing, sorry. There we go. Second.
Okay.
There we
so,
go.
What,
Sorry about this.
Okay.
There we go. These are the numbers that Chief has provided. And the big one is that he's asking for the increase of 21,000 in firefighter stipends. And then increases outlined and some new salary items. So, Chief, if you want to walk them through this.
Okay. First of all, from anybody that's sitting on the Finance Committee or Board of Selectmen, is there anyone that has not seen this document before tonight?
No, I have.
it's been circulated.
Okay, so we'll start at the top. The firefighter stipend would be an increase from 15 and change to 36,000 even. This is based on a 2,000 point year. To date, we've had between 15 and 1,800 point years. The reason why I put a 2,000 point year was there was anticipation of new membership coming in. There is applications that have been turned in. These members are expected to start sometime in the next couple of months, which be into this fiscal year when they're fully on the department and training and working with us. So those members would add to the call points, driving it up over 2,000 points per year projected. We currently do 1 point per 1 hour of training or calls. So to bring it up to a reasonable amount, because right now to date, the numbers that we've been doing, they come out to be $8 or less per point, which means if you were to do that out, the average call lasts an hour or less, they're getting $8 for that call. This would make it so they would be getting about $18 for the average call or training. I understand that there is some discussion as to whether this is something that's going to be viable this year or something that needs to be worked out for future years. I've done some research. I've reached out to the towns around us to see who's paying their members what. And there's some stuff that's all over the board. We've got some departments that pay per call only, no training, no officers pay. Those are Richmond and West Stockbridge. Richmond pays $18 a call, West Stockbridge pays 10. And that's it. No trainings, no officer stipends, straight pay, $18 a call or $10 a call, depending on which town you're in.
Who pays for training?
What's that?
If it's only for calls, do they have to pay for their own training?
No, but they do have, what it is they make an agreement with their departments that they're obligated to show up for a percentage usually, or anything that's mandatory.
Oh, it's internal training. Oh, okay, sorry.
Internal training.
Vinny, would it make some sense we don't have the information on what's out there with respect to the surrounding towns. And it would seem to me that we'd want to be able to base this on what's out there, you know, and perhaps maybe study it for a period of time and come up with a solution. What about that idea?
So I also looked into if we were just to add on the people that I anticipate that have applications in currently and bring them on the department with an assumed average of how active we would expect them to be, you're looking at needing to add another 5 to 7 grand to the 15. So even if we were to entertain trying to essentially level fund this item, if we were to level fund the item based upon what the average person per call has been getting, we would at least need to go to $20,000 or more for just this year before we could entertain further discussion in future years. So my recommendation is if we're not going to be able to do what's proposed as it sits right now, that we at least appropriate $5,000 more to the line item that exists and explore it in future years so that at least the people coming on would be compensated to the same level that the members here have been for the past few years.
What's the criteria for receiving this? Is there a probationary period? Is the number of calls you gotta make, number of drills you gotta make? What's the incentive to get them to come, to get to the point of getting paid?
The way I've got it set up right now is if you're active and you show up to at least a few calls and as many trainings as are possible right now, you will receive your pay. If you have excused absence or you have like daytime calls, a lot of people work days. I'm not holding that against them. But if you are available and you can attend drills and you can attend calls and you're not going to be compensated if you got zeros. As it stands right now, I compensate people when they show up and only if they show up.
Jay, I have a question or two.
Go ahead, Steve.
The
If you
stipend,
speak up a little.
yes, I will. Thank you, Patrick. The stipend raises the question as to what the profile of the volunteers currently looks like. And I think that we need some more information about how many volunteers you presently have, what their ages are, which I think is important in this case, and what times of day are they available? And you just alluded to the fact that many of them have daytime jobs, and so presumably they're only available at night. The answers to those questions will help us also in our discussion about overall needs of the department and the ability to man the trucks that you have, which has been an on-again, off-again issue that we've had to discuss, but we've never had, at least my way of thinking, a full resolution of the questions that have been previously raised. So I'd like to see more information about the whole the whole volunteer staff, about what your anticipation is by way of new volunteers, when they will be able to provide service, and what that means for us during daylight hours.
I
Okay,
think if you add to that, Steve, the fact as to what surrounding towns are doing, it would suggest that we really need to study this whole issue and come up with a little broader perspective, so that we understand what our needs are.
well, Jay, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I think the problem with the fire department, I have to say, ever in the almost 10 years that I've had to look at issues like this, is that they've always, excuse me, Chucky, for saying this,
Oh, go ahead, say it.
but they have been somewhat opaque. It's not been easy to get the kind of information that you need in order to be able to make proper decisions about funding. And that, we have a very, I'm sorry to make a speech here, but we have a very expensive set of rolling stock here, requiring a great deal of maintenance from time to time. And I think that we need to know more about the condition, the quality, the useful lives of the vehicles that we have, and our ability to man those vehicles at all times of the day.
Yes,
I think that would support the comment, the thought that maybe we enhance modestly what we're doing and then continue to review the system in depth, with the comments that Steve has made and also what surrounding towns do, so that we come up with an ultimate solution. And maybe that would take us the better part of a year, so that we don't do everything at once on this budget cycle until we have all the facts.
Well, and I think my opinion here is that I think, yes, we have to look at what other towns are doing around us. Certainly, we have to have at least some level of parity in terms of how we pay. But detailed information about the volunteers we have now, their availability. Also detailed information about the people who are actually looking into becoming volunteers. But I think we have to be a little more far-reaching in that we have to think about the crux of the problem. We have an aging volunteer fire department. And how do we encourage younger families to come to this town to give us some potential firefighters in the future? So I think that should be an element of that discussion.
Roxanne, we have been asking that question for years.
And we got to try to find some answers.
And
Maybe we come up with a financial
and we
incentive.
have yet to come up with an answer. And in
Make it
fact,
easier for first-time home buyers to buy here. You know, that's-
well,
Potential incentive to move
look,
here.
in fact, I mean, what really has happened is that as the number of volunteers, one, has declined, and two, those who are available only at off hours. They're no longer, most of them are no longer available during the day.
Correct.
That means that we more and more have relied upon mutual aid, particularly for structure fires. And by the way, Chief, I think we'd also like to see your call numbers, both on emergency and medical calls, as well as, the traditional fire calls and the number of calls that are assisted by mutual aid. And increasingly, with a reliance on mutual aid during daylight hours for structure fires, it raises the question as to why we have independent fire departments in all of these small towns.
Amen.
And that's the tough question that no one wants to discuss.
I'd like to, I don't think we're going to solve this in the next hour or so. And
Why don't we
would,
table this as
exactly.
part of it until we come up with information we need to get?
Correct. And if that requires a broader period of time, Chuck, we should do what we're doing for a period of time and then plan for the future,
Yes.
We'll
We
wait
need
to
a lot
hear
of
back.
answers. I mean, this is departments, a lot of departments around, but we need the answers to see what we need for equipment, stations, manpower, what we're gonna have. And that would answer a lot of our questions on where we're spending the money to improve and enhance our fire department, not to, dismantle it. We want to do what's best for the fire department and the town for protection. And that's our end goal.
So one of the things to begin in the short term is obviously looking out as doing a multi-year plan of where we think the fire department's going to be, what its needs are, and the rest. The question is, how can we put this together? For some questions that are raised right now, I know I did send around, and it should have been in your packet, but it might have been buried. Were comparisons of other towns, because Chief had given me some of the numbers from the other town. But what we should do is take it from I think they were just mostly emails and some other things. We need to put them into like a spreadsheet for comparison purposes so that you have something right in front of you that can compare.
Easier to read.
So I would say right now, we need a short-term approach to address this year's budget and then a longer term. So I think me and Chief can sit down, get some comparisons, quickly put together in a better format, and then go through what to develop. So
I would agree with that, Michael, unless anybody has any other thoughts at this.
And does that mean we're not talking about this 5-year capital plan, or is that sort of?
if you want to,
I mean, I just think, we're looking to spend $1.5 million over 5 years. I think that should be.
That's going to be all connected to this report.
What?
It'll be all connected to what this report comes out to be.
Okay.
If we're going to end up with a great amount of members down the road, then yes, if we're less, then we got to cut. So it's kind of hard to answer those questions until we know kind of what our personnel issue is going to be.
Right.
I said this is for every town, but
Well, is that with most of this is truck replacement? Is that related to personnel too?
yeah, because we had 5 engines in the past, because we had 90 members. Now we got down to 40, 30, we cut down to 4. And there's possibility to cut down to 3 if we only have, you gotta have the manpower to man equipment. You can have all the equipment you want, but if you can't get out of the station, it looks
You
pretty.
can't use it if you don't have the manpower.
So manpower determining the whole future of where the department's going.
I
And
think we
we
need
gotta
to
do something to get manpower, and that's another issue. So, yeah, it's not a simple solution,
I think
but
we
something that we
need to-
seriously gotta look into to have full protection of this town.
so Chief, we'll get together next week and start trying to hammer home what we need in the immediacy of the next year, and then work on developing a longer term, some of these answers. Does that sound good?
I think
Now,
that's.
are we talking about just the salary portion? Are we talking about the salary and operating budget? Are we what portions are we?
Well,
we
right now,
looking
we're
at?
talking about salary, and then the only question up in the air right now, as far as operational, is what hose number to come with to finalize that, so.
Okay.
More to follow, okay?
Excellent.
Now,
Let's let's move on if we can to the next item. Body work for engine number 2. We have circulated to everybody the details for this request. Basically, there is rusting in rear compartment doors, and where the request is for $40,000 for this for this work.
Actually, Jay, that was upgraded. That was sent out, an
65,
updated
right.
one. It's 65,000 was the updated estimate for the body work needed for engine 2.
Thank you. So basically, any thoughts on that, Chief Garofoli?
So basically, the only reason why it has reached the point it is and why it's on as a capital expenditure and one that's been pushed off is it's been a level funding thing that's been pushed off for a couple of years. We were hoping that we would have a more viable solution, potentially a replacement piece in the works. But as it stands right now, it's not in the budget to be able to replace this piece within the time period at which it will not pass an inspection. So the reason why the body work is sitting before you today is because it has reached a point where we are very close to having through holes in the body and in some of the doors. And once those doors rot away enough where the compartments within are exposed to the elements, they will no longer pass a DOT inspection. So the reason for the repair is to make sure that it will pass a DOT inspection and at least give us a couple more years of life out of that body before replacing of that apparatus.
How old is this vehicle?
This one is a 2001.
Okay.
It's already 20 years old.
Yeah, and what is the useful life of a vehicle like this?
So the useful life is something that is long since debated in many departments across the country, but
What is your view of it?
thinking 20 years is about the standard. After 20 years, typically in a larger department, they will go into a reserve status, no longer be a frontline piece, and at 25 years old, be phased out completely and either become parts for other reserve pieces or be completely traded in or scrapped.
So Chief, wait, based upon what you just said, you're essentially suggesting to us that this vehicle is in need of replacement.
Yeah, and it's on the budget for 2 years from now. I don't understand why we'd spend 65,000. I mean, is it absolutely critical?
It won't pass inspection.
Well, maybe this would be another one to kind of think about, see how far we get along with that report, and if we do end up cutting down the truck, that would be the one you cut down. But we can,
Or buy it a year earlier, because it's a lot cheaper to pay it, to save the 65 grand and just bring it online a year earlier. You're gonna have it for 25 years.
What is the age of the rest of our fleet and how many engines do we have, Chief?
So we technically have 3 engines, 1 heavy rescue. The heavy rescue is a 2013. The newest engine is a 2018, which is classified as a pumper tanker. So it is not set up to be a replacement of a frontline piece. We could make it work in a pinch, but it's not set up with the same compartment configurations for the amount of equipment we're carrying on our frontline piece. It wasn't designed to be the frontline attack engine. The engine in question for the bodywork is the frontline attack engine. That's a 2001. The other engine is even older than that, and that's a 1995, and that is engine 1 out of Interlaken Station. So the reason why we're replacing and why I'm going for replacement of engine 2 before engine 1 is because body-wise, engine 1 is in better shape than engine 2. I don't know why. It just is the way it is.
Do you use engine 2?
Every time we go to a call, that is typically the first piece out the door.
How about engine 1?
Engine 1 is not typically the first piece out the door. It's usually either the second or third, depending on what we've got and where we're going.
How often does that go out?
Which one, engine one or engine two?
Engine one.
Engine one will typically go out on most fire alarms, any calls for fire itself, and any carbon monoxide incidents for the most part.
Can that be done?
Just
with
talk about
a
staffing.
Different kind of vehicle?
Not be done with a different kind of vehicle. There are other options. Some things that have come up in the past have been the replacing it with what is called a mini pumper, or looking at the option of a mini pumper versus a standard pumper. Not too many years ago, Richmond opted to phase out a piece of apparatus. Not really, I shouldn't say phase out. They added a mini pumper to their fleet instead of running a larger man cab engine. So they took an engine that was a 6-man cab, made it a 3-man cab, and then added a mini pumper on top of it, with the assumption that they would phase out the 2-man engine in the future.
Vin, if I might, it's Jay, will the body, what will be the enhanced life of the vehicle if we put $65,000 into body work?
You're looking at least getting it to the point of replacement in the projection for the 5-year plan. The whole reason why we're doing only a body work and not a complete refurbishment of the piece at this point would be just to make it to the point of replacement.
I think this also speaks, with our previous conversation, that we take a complete look at the whole picture: equipment, staff, facilities, etc. It's all part of what we do today and what we do in the future. I think this just bears it out even more significantly in my mind. So, are there any other questions on the body work?
The only objection that I can see to that, to be honest with you, is the fact that we have 2 of our main engines are both over 20 years old. And if we opt not to do the repairs on this one particularly, and we allow it to go as is, it's not a matter of if it's going to fail a DOT inspection, it's a matter of when. And if we continue to table this issue, I can't tell you it's going to pass the DOT inspection this year in April, let alone next April.
Well,
Is there any way to patch it, temporarily patch it to cover up the holes and then, throw the paint on to get it through another year?
So when I looked into that, that was one of the other options, was to look into, instead of replacement of those doors, to actually weld and patch and repair those existing doors. And that estimate by man hours alone came out to well exceed the 65,000. We were looking at almost 2,000 man hours just to do that, because they're not a solid door. They're a dual panel, meaning they're a folded panel and pressed. And in order to do that and patch it and weld it accordingly to be able to be what they needed it to be, they were worried about warping and heat transfer and other things that would create that, making the man hours into those doors to make them smooth again well over 2,000 man hours. That's why they went with the option of total replacement instead of welding patches into those existing doors, because that was the first approach that I was looking at, was trying to do welded patches to get us through. And they said because of the construction of the door not being solid steel, but being folded press steel, that doing such was going to create more man hours than what was feasibly worth.
Michael, the only thing I would note is that if the life of this vehicle is only 2 years, obviously we should probably not finance it over 5.
We weren't.
Okay, good.
I was just in there showing if you were to go 5.
Just making sure. I got it. That's fine.
I did have it as a free cash purchase.
Right.
We were gonna do it.
Vinny, where is your
Yeah, but
estimate from?
The estimate is from Bulldog Fire Apparatus of New York, which is who we use for our general repairs and service. And they have a full service body shop that can service these size pieces of apparatus. Because that's one of the other things. You can't take this to the one down the road here. It's not something that can be done at a small shop for autos. Typically, it has to be done at a heavy truck shop, or in this case, a fire apparatus dealer or servicer usually has a body shop that they use. In this case, they have their own.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on this? I think we've got a pretty good feel for this at this point. Any other comments? Okay, I believe the last item is the Interlaken station repairs. You want to talk to us about what's in there, Vin, and what we need to do?
Yeah, so Interlaken Station houses engine one, which is our second engine, which is the second primary attack engine, I should say. That's the 1995. So basically what's happened is that station has been needing repairs and paint to the exterior for a number of years. And back in the 90s, an addition was put on that station. And when that addition was put on, there was windows that were installed at the time that were supposed to be the end all to end all. And unfortunately, those sills have not lasted. And over time, they have deteriorated to the point where a lot of them are rotting. And if we don't repair the windows or replace the windows currently and look at the repairing the weatherboard, some of the siding, we're going to start looking at damage to the building that's going to exceed what would be easily remediated. So it goes a lot further than just paint. It goes to maintaining the building to useful specifications. So even if we were to entertain down the road what is going to be housed or not housed in there, we have to protect the asset currently. And the best way to protect the asset is to make sure that the exterior is weatherproof and can withstand the elements for the next few years.
Just a question. You had indicated that Interlaken has engine number one. It has one engine in it.
Correct.
What else is in there? There's more than one bay.
Yes, there's more than one bay. Typically right now, the only thing that is housed in there is engine one. The second bay usually has the Rio in it, which is an antique apparatus during the summertime, but it hasn't had that in there yet. It's going to be in there soon once the weather breaks. Typically the boat was stored in there, but we have since changed the boat to Glendale Station, and the water truck that was given to us after last year's meeting that we were able to get from the water department has been repurposed with a body that was donated from the Fire Department Association to be a utility truck that stays in Glendale Station hooked up to that boat. And the enclosed trailer that's behind Central is anticipated to go next to Glendale Station coming up. So Interlaken Station will house engine one primarily, where in the past it housed the boat as well.
Well, my question is, do we need both Interlaken and Glendale stations? And, how does that fit into the future plan if you have basically half of Interlaken vacant? Could we consolidate that in some other way? I don't know the answer to that.
So the quick answer to that, Jay, is no. And I'll tell you why. The boat and the utility truck itself hooked up together will never fit in the second bay of Interlaken. Besides that, if you weren't to hook them up and try and back them in side by side, cram the boat in one corner and bring the utility truck in the other, you're not going to be able to make them fit either. So if you were to try and utilize that bay, the only thing you would really be able to utilize it for was the boat, which was in there before. But it doesn't make any sense to keep the boat separate from the vehicle that's typically going to be towing it. That's why we opted to leave them hooked up in Glendale Station, or at least backed up to one another so they could be easily hooked up. So the reconfiguring of the stations to allow Glendale Station to house the boat inside, and hopefully in the future, the utility trailer exterior, so that truck can hook up to either one of those pieces and have the pieces that it's typically going to hook up to within the same area to be utilized.
Okay.
So Interlaken Station will continue to be used for an engine no matter what.
I have a question. I don't think that we should be making the assumption that engine number one is going to be replaced.
What's that?
I don't think that we should make an assumption that engine number one is going to be replaced. It's a 1995 vehicle. We've had discussion in the past about reducing the size of our vehicles by one additional engine, and it's not inconceivable that it could be engine number one. Sitting here, I'm obviously not in a position to make a judgment like that. But it seems to me that it's incumbent on the fire department and the town administration to do exactly what Jay was saying, to review need. It's about needs, staffing, and so forth, before we start making expensive capital repairs to a building which may not be needed.
I think we could leave this topic for some feedback, Vin, from you and Michael after you talk in the next couple of days. Okay.
So here's the only problem that I have with this. This was brought up last year before COVID hit, and then COVID hit right after our last meeting. So this is not something that's new to the finance committee or to the select board as being something that was on the docket. It's already been tabled for a year, and we've reached the point where we're at now. If we continue to table it, we're to the point now where we have some patchwork that's been done to a couple of the sills there. We've got a lot of rotting material on that building. And even if you were to look at offloading this asset, the investment of the $50,000 that you would be making into the building currently would only enhance what you could potentially return from the building. So even if you were going to look at it as a potential to no longer be a fire station and be repurposed or sold or anything else down the line, you have to protect the asset. And I don't think, no matter what we decide is going in there or what its use is going to be, that further allowing this building to continue to deteriorate on the exterior is going to lead to structural issues within that's going to degrade the structure to the point where your return is going to be significantly affected if you were to repurpose the building. So whether the conversation is repurposing, continuing to use as is, or what down the road, you still need to protect the asset. And this isn't a, we're going to knock down a couple walls and remodel the building interior. This is literally protecting the exterior to protect the overall asset.
Any other comments from anybody on this at this point? So basically, Michael, we will expect to hear back. We'll talk about the salary issue, the body work we talked about, the hoses, and also interlaken. I think we could use a little more information, and unless there's further discussion at this point, I'd like to save this for a future meeting.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vinny.
The only other question I had on the budget stuff is, with the COVID relief package that's about to pass, what is Stockbridge's share? We don't know yet.
We're waiting.
So Lennox is in the paper.
I know, I gotta figure out how they got their number.
186,000. 186,000.
Oh, all right, so Jay already got it. I didn't get it today.
Used for what?
CARES money again, but there is some talk that this money may be available for,
Right.
maybe now made available for offset lost revenue,
Right.
which it wasn't allowed in the first round. So
Lost revenue?
Yeah, it's a lot more
actually,
flexible.
we did lose on hotel motel.
Yeah, sure.
Right, so there is some, so we're gonna have to look at that. We still have 19,000 in the other one, but this one, my understanding is gonna be more open to options than the very restrictive first round that came out, so.
Okay.
Okay,
We're done with the fire department budget, correct?
Michael, do we want to continue on with the capital items, or do we want to save that for a meeting, in a week or so?
I would defer to you guys.
What's your pleasure?
I think we table it for.
We're not allowed to play yet.
Yeah.
Let's do the rest of the capital budgets
We've got about 2 more hours of stuff here.
So
at our next
can we set it for our next night meeting?
Next Thursday night meeting.
26?
26th, okay for you guys, Thursday night? Jay?
Or 25th?
25th, sorry.
Okay, my only question on that is, we end up having a lot of other things on our agenda. And it might make sense to sort of do the budget ones, at least so we get the initial take, at least one budget meeting outside the Thursday meeting, if you guys are up for it.
Well, let's do the 25th and take it from there. you need another one, we'll squeeze it in.
Yeah,
How's
So
that?
we're waiting 2 weeks, right? Yeah,
Yes.
2 weeks.
okay. You guys okay with that?
All right, what was the outcome, please?
Thursday, the 25th, 6:30, another joint meeting. Hopefully have an update. The fire department will have
Capital.
the other capital projects.
3:25 joint meeting. Any comments from the folks on the finance committee? Is that okay with everybody?
Fine with me.
I can't make it, but that should not stop you, the rest of you from meeting. I'll be away.
That's fine. It's fine with me.
Fine with me.
Okay with me.
Okay. Jim,
Yes. I'm
you're
fine.
okay?
I wish
Are
I
you
was
guys
going to California with Bill.
The transfer, hang on one sec.
Pam, are you okay with this?
Reserve fund transfer, they got to be with them.
Tree, yeah.
They got to be with
Vote
them.
to approve, we can get it signed.
Pam Boudreau?
And
Yes,
Don't,
Jay.
yeah.
don't leave, we got one more little act here. We got to act upon reserve fund transfer for the Iceland tree survey. So I believe that's the $6,000 to do the initial study, correct?
Yeah, and Jess Toro, Jess, are you still on? I saw you come on like an hour ago. If not, it's okay. Not the,
I am here.
oh, okay.
So
You want to just, Jess is a Stockbridge expert on hemlocks and other things. She owns that native habitat business, one of the 3 that are licensed in the state. Jess, will you just give us like a minute? We're running way behind. Just some of your thoughts here.
Sure. So Patrick and I had a conversation about Iceland, and there's a couple concerns that, just in general, I think there's a lot of towns that wonder about how to manage forest lands and how to take care of those special areas such as Iceland is. And there's a bunch of resources for towns to tap into. And one that I've recommended and the Laurel Hill has done on their side is to get a forest management plan. And this forest management plan really gives you a view of what your forest looks like now, but also for the next 10 years and in considerations. So I think that is something the town should go forward with, and there is grant opportunities to help pay for it. But in the meantime, you have some very special hemlocks and some very special ashes. Ashes are being affected by the emerald ash borer, and we've seen complete die-off in certain areas like Golden Hill and Lee and Day Mountain and Dalton. And I think, it's unrealistic to think that somehow Iceland will be spared from that. And then there's also the hemlock woolly adelgid, and that tends to, when it's teamed up at the same time as the hemlock scale and drought conditions, also make champion hemlock trees vulnerable to mortality. So I think the recommendation to do an assessment of especially the trees older than 200 years to look at what type of shape they're in and whether or not they will need proactive treatment for some of these damaging insects is, I think, a good place to start there.
Right.
So we have to.
Thanks.
So, yeah, I think that it takes a vote of both the select
But we have to.
and the finance committee.
We vote.
Figured if we could do it, the select board, correct me, Jay, if I'm wrong, but the select board would vote first. I can have Chuck sign it, and then if there's a vote of approval by the finance committee, you could stop in and then sign it.
I'll make a motion that we request the $6,000 to do this project.
From the reserve fund, right.
From the reserve account. Yep.
Second.
Second?
Second, which was seconded.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now it's you guys.
Okay, Finance Committee, a recommendation has been made for the $6,000 assessment of the trees, ash and hemlocks on Ice Glen. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
A second?
yes, second,
Is that you, Steve?
it is.
Okay, and roll call. We have basically Pam,
You might have left.
Okay, Jim, yes.
Yes,
Pam is off the line.
She's muted. She's muted. She's not
Oh.
offline.
Sorry.
Pam,
Aye.
okay,
Approve.
thank you. Neil,
Aye.
okay, Diane? Diane? Steve,
Yes.
Bill,
Aye.
and myself, yes. So you fill out the papers and I'll sign it with probably tomorrow.
This one.
Now, Chuck, sign them tonight. They'll be ready for you tomorrow.
And I want to thank you, the finance committee. It's really a pleasure working with you together again when it's nice, relaxing, productive atmosphere. Thank you.
And very informative,
Thank you.
Chief. Thank you. As the
We
new
got a lot
guy,
of work to do.
we're always.
All right, thank you, everybody. And we'll sign off and let you get on with your business, okay?
Thank you.
Oh, just one thing, everybody. We are in the process, the finance committee, this is other business, of setting up an exit audit with Adelson and Company. The two dates chosen are Tuesday, the 30th of March, and April 1st on a Thursday. Michael Canales will come back to us to determine which of those two dates will work. So everybody had said that's pretty good. I think, Bill, you're not going to be available, if I'm not mistaken. And after we get the date, I will recirculate the draft audit. So that's all I have, unless there's some additional new business.
Okay, anybody else on there, finance committee, got anything to say?
I move that we adjourned.
There you go.
Okay,
You can stay with us. We got quite a bit of left here. on
Steve,
our
you're not
paper.
staying for an executive session or something? Just hang out.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
finance committee.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
We're gonna
back to
sign off.
Bye.
All right, back to it.
So am I
Thank
gonna
you.
make a motion to close the joint meeting and we open a second meeting, or we just move ahead?
Yep, moving on to the next agenda. They're off. Yep.
Okay, so we are
Okay.
done with the joint meeting, so bylaw warrants.
All right, can we just take a reality check here? You know, we got, do we want to just go through the rest of the agenda and either table some of the items or go through this whole thing? It's really up to,
Well, it should be quick from here on out.
all right, good.
Okay.
I'm all for it. I just want to make sure.
Driveway and common driveways, anybody got any issues with that bylaw?
No,
Do you have any?
Nope.
No, so we can pass that along.
For that to the finance. Yep.
Yep. Off-street parking requirements, I have no issues. I
no.
read that.
I do. I mean, I just want to mention, that, look, I will defer to you.
What's your,
I will defer to you, but I am concerned about the sort of worst case scenario if some of our larger businesses convert their parking to alternative uses. I'm not sure it's likely, but it would, especially
do what?
some of our larger.
Sorry, do what?
If we remove all downtown parking requirements, as point number A does in the proposed bylaw, then it opens up parking lots currently can then be converted to alternative uses. And Ray Miars himself warned this town against doing that. Now, I'm not saying he's right. I'm not saying that anybody would ever convert like their lot behind Hall's Garage or, near the post office into, some other use, but if they do, it is an irreversible impact.
Do we have any say if somebody buys that property and says nobody can park here to begin with? Do we have any right to stop that?
Yes, because we have a requirement that they have.
No, if somebody buys halls and makes a complex out of it and says, I want nobody
Not
parking here.
Halls, the one next to Halls, I said. Yeah, the red line parking is what I'm.
Line falls
private
under
parking.
hotel. There are parking requirements for
I
hotels.
thought that all parking was waived in the business district according to this. Section A, look at point number A. It's not what we talked about, Roxanne.
This has been discussed numerous times on the planning board.
I know, I've been to all the meetings. I'm telling you, it's just read out. I mean, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but what does A say?
Well, I don't know how I would be concerned about this. This is very different. It's a big departure from what we have now.
Yes.
In the layout. So I would want to review it. But my understanding is that hotels have their own separate section, which requires parking.
Okay, let's table that one.
You're the hotel.
Let's table off, let's
We can't table it for too long, so we have to give them an answer within 14 days.
We'll table it to
Right, but I
next
just
Thursday's
wanna-
meeting.
I don't have a problem with this.
I don't either.
You're the one who's bringing up the issue. And the only thing that it would be an issue would be the Red Lion Inn.
They park all the way down Main Street to begin with, out of their parking spots.
And
Yeah,
how do
the-
you run a hotel if you have no parking?
I think that's a legitimate question. I also think that our bylaws are forever and people could buy the hotel. People could convert to it. I mean, I don't know. I just,
Separate category.
it- do we have that in front of us?
Well, we need our original bylaws. This is.
I'm just looking through all my papers.
You want to hold this one off to next Thursday?
I want to get this.
You actually can, you'd have, it has to be moved at the next meeting,
Yeah,
but, back to the, because you have 14 days, it was just.
So why don't we
That's on the 19th.
fit with if, because we can take it off anytime, right?
No. So the way this works is you could send it to the planning board with your comments to be added to the record, but.
Let's do that.
Section 2A says business district, no off-street parking spaces shall be required for establishments within the business zoning district.
Period.
All establishments outside the business zoning district must comply with the following
I'm
requirements.
gonna say
Two
50.
spaces.
Wait,
So is the red line in the,
uh,
is in the man within the business?
so is Michael's.
But it says 50,
but it also
Uh,
comments, and see, I think it's, I
50,
found this.
50, whatever, people going in or less, so rather than it's way over 50.
No, that all is out.
He talks about that, to remove the requirement of 2 parking spaces for every 3 employees of an eating establishment as seen in other Berkshire County municipalities. So this first page where he's outlining his proposal.
That's not the bylaw
does not
proposal.
Match
Yeah.
the bylaw part. And then it says to create an exemption of parking requirements within the business zoning district for establishments that have under
Under
50
50.
legal occupants. So
No,
It's not what they came back. They redlined it at the last, a couple meetings ago. And then they said, Donna looked at it and the final draft that came back is different than what I recall at all the meetings.
exactly. So this does, you're right, this does not match what has been discussed and anything even close to what is already in our bylaws.
Right.
It wasn't that big. of a-
That's why I brought in, just for the record, that's why I brought it up.
I don't know why everything's being rewritten.
Yeah.
well, so you good with it or?
I think we need to check it.
Okay, so why don't we hold off on that one?
It really should only be striking a line out of the existing bylaw. All this doesn't need to be rewritten.
Basically, yeah.
I just thought it was everything in bold.
But you gotta understand, this is referred to us now and we don't have the authority to change it. We can send comments back for an amendment at town meeting, as I understand it.
But we don't have to support it either. Goes to town vote, we can not support it and that would go a long way.
Yeah.
Correct?
This was like. this
I
was
thought
like-
everything-
This is like removing a line from the bylaw. So I don't know why it's morphed into this, so.
Okay, let's table that one to next, sign regulations.
I'm okay with it.
I'm good with that.
Afraid of- No.
Okay, you really, yeah, okay. You know, there's more about the signs than me. I don't have any comments on it.
I know, but they rewrote everything. I don't understand. We had it all.
I just thought the things in bold were what they were changing.
Can
signed.
we table that one too, so Roxanne has a chance to go through it?
Oh, God.
So you know, we just continually,
See, I
we
don't
can
know what's
continue all but the
changing.
driveway to the next.
Everything in the big bold.
I have a red line version.
And I thought everything was kind of stated was staying, everything with bold was being changed.
We have 14 days. The 14th day expires Friday, the 19th. So the next meeting was within the 14 days.
Okay, let's do that.
Refer to the planning board.
Okay.
And we
So, okay with the driveway,
both these items back on the agenda
Okay.
for referring to the
It
planning. board.
just literally just has to be compared to the existing bylaws, because it's not clear what's changing, what's new.
That's why I asked for the summaries.
I know, but the summary doesn't match what's.
where,
Now.
look, I read mine online, it was, I just thought all the bold items are the ones they changed and everything else was just in there staying.
I don't know. I can't even almost tell what's old and what's
It
not.
wasn't that much changing.
We'll get that red line one around.
Yeah.
that you guys
We
can
have to
see
be
it.
able to
and
see what's been
we'll go
changed.
from there.
Okay,
But at this point, yes, the procedure is just referral. You can refer it with comments to be entered in the record at the hearing. If you have comments about.
Driveways,
these, and
this
then-
one is the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one's.
This is okay.
yeah, driveway's fine.
Everybody's fine.
Michael, can we work on a better procedure too, just so that we're better briefed before it gets referred as to what the thinking of the board is?
It's referred to you. This is what you have to do if it comes from another board.
But I'm just saying, as a, let's just all work together so that, if we have an assumption on things, it's sort of a lot of work to discover these things. I'm just saying, maybe we could kind of work on a process to work a little bit more closely together,
Review and act upon petition to amend the zoning bylaw, section 4.11.1 and 4.11.2, and refer to the planning board for a public hearing. What's that about?
That is,
That's
about
that one,
two
and actually,
petitions.
you have two petitions in front of you asking the board to consider adopting the following. It would be you guys moving this forward. You should have in there, one that actually just outlines what the chart would actually be. That should have been right on the top. I added it. I had Teresa add it to yours. So it just shows that. Show the screen. So what has been requested of you is to take the proposed table that we have, which currently says yes to family dwellings within all the different districts. And we've had the request to take the one family and make it a no, and makes two family a no within only the business zoning district.
On the first floor.
For
I
business.
say I want to make it,
Residential use would be no.
but it doesn't apply to current residences.
Business on the first floor, you have residential on the second floor and
It
above.
would only exist as, if they're already established that way. The petition you received requested you to change this. One family dwelling, no.
No,
So going forward, your commercial establishments would be commercial establishments.
the whole building.
Once again, this would go with the other packet of stuff for the, I'm trying to remember, when is the planning board meeting? The planning board meeting,
Next today, and they're meeting on Tuesday.
they're meeting next Tuesday, right?
Meeting next Tuesday.
But
Planning board.
Oh, so why wouldn't it be business on the first floor? Why couldn't we have residential apartments on the second floor?
right, Donna Brewer
Yeah.
seemed to indicate that just making these two changes
Would prevent
would
residential.
prevent that. But it has to be allowed on the second.
It's gotta be allowed on the second floor.
Yeah,
That's-
Because you're gonna have business on the second floor. Now you got elevators and fire
Well, we've got
escapes.
business- we've got buildings with businesses on the second floor.
But
Pam's
there's,
office is on the second
but
floor.
there.
we also have residences on the second floor.
But there are
Would
residents.
you be able to re-rent your apartment that you rent out if you own that building, if this passes?
You got all the apartments above.
And the intent
Yeah.
here is to, at floor level, at street level, it needs to. be
I'm 100% business on the first floor.
So,
100% up. You can have the capability of having an apartment.
We'll get this back for Thursday and
so
and
let's
go.
refer it to the planning board with the stipulation. I would move that we refer this to.
You got
the
enough
planning
housing
board with
issue
the
as it is for affordable
stipulation
housing. And those are,
that It refers to the first floor, that
First
first
floor only.
floor in business zone has to be commercial. But that it's allowed to have residential on the second floor.
And
because every almost, I bet the Bubba and Taylor has residential. You got above the Market has residential.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's great.
And it's wonderful.
Yeah. You can kick people out of town.
And we're
There's
sure-
people in town. I'm gonna kick them out.
That's is not the intent. The intent is just.
First
the
floor.
street level, first
I'm
floor.
100% behind that.
But, and we're sure if the building is sold that is currently a residence, that the new owner can maintain it as a residence. I'm talking about like a house in the business district, like Lilly and Bender's, because that is technically in the business district, as I understand it.
Well,
It shoots up, look at the map.
the business district shoots up Pine Street and it does a weird jag down South Street.
She's on Shamrock.
I know, but it does this jag. I'm just saying, look at, I just want to
So,
make sure that if you own a residence already that is on the first floor and you go to sell your house, that we're not basically making it that you can only sell to a business.
no, you could keep it, well. If it doesn't occupy a business as it is, it's got to be that it could stay a residence, but you have the opportunity to make the bottom floor a business.
Okay, what we're basically saying is if you have a business and an address on a first floor, you got to keep it that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to phrase that.
If it's a residential building, if you sell it, it should be able to say the residential first floor
I just want to
commercial.
confirm that that's true though, Chuck.
Yeah, just make sure it's confirmed. Kind of see what we're saying, Mike?
You got it, but the bottom line is that we will refer this with that stipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One family dwelling.
Because we're trying to get it on the Tuesday. I get it. Okay, got it.
Relevant use.
If you grandfather in a business district with a residence first floor, you're grandfathered.
I think so. I mean,
And
it's-
selling or not selling, once it becomes a business on the first floor, then your grandfather's gone. So if you buy your house and you put a business there, it's got to stay a business.
And it's really hard to read the map because there's RC and B, and they're both orange. It's really hard to read on the map.
Is this a select board petition or a citizen's petition?
Somebody,
This is a citizens petition.
But do we need to make it a select board petition? We can't edit a citizen's
They
petition.
don't have 10 signatures to move it forward without you.
yeah,
So
so
the way,
Okay, so this is now a select board petition.
the select board is now the one acting off of the petition.
I make a motion that we assign Roxanne the ability to work with Michael on whatever additional edits that you guys want to make to get this
no
through.
time for that. There's not-
This is, I don't know anything about this before tonight.
So, okay, so, but
You got the
make a
legit.
motion that we are referring these petitions to the planning board with additional.
Subject to whatever conditions you and Michael come up with.
To ensure that it only applies to first floor.
First floor.
And if you have a first floor residential building, it stays that way until,
I'll confirm, I can confirm that.
I do understand.
I don't think they can force you to.
Grandfathered, you don't have to state in the zoning, it would be grandfathered.
Yeah, grandfather.
It's a residential home right now, it doesn't not become a residential home, but I will confirm that. Yes.
All right, so let's, we better have.
I have a motion.
Second, and then,
I'll make a motion for that to send it to planning board with those
Yeah,
changes.
we're gonna refer to the planning board, subject to whatever edits you and Michael come up with.
Yep.
okay,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Stockbridge Museum, Stockbridge Munskies.
So there's 3 documents they want to transfer. What?
We received legal language from Donna Brewer in order to place on the town
Right.
an article to move these documents. We got possession of the tribe.
It's gotta be done.
Let's just take 2 seconds and explain the issue. So at town hall, couple of years ago, when they were cleaning out the old town hall, they found 2 documents or 1 document. Chris Morrison found a second document that relate to the 1700s when one of them has Concord name on it. Another one is specifically relevant to Indian proprietorship. And then we have some records at town hall that Terry has in addition, which is a book of Indian records. There's a state law that says you can't transfer those without we can't transfer them, period. It takes an act of the legislature as well as an act of town meeting to transfer these. So I talked to Smitty. He is happy, in fact, excited to support a transfer in the legislature if our town meeting supports transferring these documents. So what we're talking about today is voting on a warrant item that Donna has written for us, town council, that would allow the town to request from Smitty and the legislature to have the right to transfer these documents before 1870 to the Stockbridge Munsee tribe of the Mohicans. A band of the Mohicans, I should say.
Okay.
So that's what's before
I'll
us.
make a motion that we put that onto the town warrant.
Second.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Aye.
very strongly, yes.
All right. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Good.
No, that's just going to warrant, towns can vote on it.
That's fine.
Review short-term rentals and finalize a strategy of what will be included in the proposed bylaw. We're on that. We're set with that, aren't we?
Do we have a document to that effect, Michael?
Thought I sent her out. It should have been.
I got that today. Do you mind if we do that one next week, just so I can read it?
Okay.
We're running, yeah, we can put that on. It's being reviewed. It's the one that deals specifically with just enforcement issues.
Yeah.
That's
Someone asked, and I did put some language and sent it to Donna as far as language around dumpsters to add that
Okay.
piece, because that wasn't in the one me and you had looked at.
Okay,
We'll have that for next Thursday.
Yes.
okay.
Discuss and determine whether to accept a bylaw to accept an increase in their local occupancy tax from 4 to 6%.
I believe that is a resolution at town meeting that would be sent to the Commissioner of Revenue, but I mean, they're not to split hairs, but it's not a bylaw.
That's what, I'm just reading what I got, okay? I would make
Should
a,
have been a resolution.
I wasn't directing you, Chuck.
I'll make a motion that we send the resolution, or put it onto the town warrant.
Yeah.
A resolution to increase it to 6%. I'm 100% behind that too.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Review and discuss of other items from our bylaw list.
Are we gonna do a bear one?
That's not. Oh,
No,
we're gonna talk to Daryl.
Daryl's,
I did request it today from Daryl, the last one. It hasn't really been worked on. We
No.
had one back.
Fine one. I think other towns have it.
Yeah, so we do have
Some
one
other town.
other town,
Mhm.
so.
okay,
See if we can pull that together for next Thursday.
CPC vote report required next steps housing.
That's yours, Patrick.
I'm happy to do it. Do you want to, I mean, let me just kind of run through it. We approved a record amount of funding for affordable housing initiatives as well as senior housing repair. I believe gave 89,000 to, not gave, but we recommended to town meeting 89,000 for Pine Woods to repair the driveway. And there's a lot of items about Pine Woods that we could talk about at some point, but we don't need to tonight. We also funded both requests from the Senior Housing Authority. One had to do with replacement of a sign and the other one is something about roofs or siding or something, but both those requests about 40,000. And then we referred 100,000 for Jay's proposal for the Housing Trust Fund. Sally did a good job of identifying potential solution places where we could pull money back that from old allocations that were kind of dead in the water, but the money kind of sits specific to them. So if someone doesn't spend all their money or somebody proposed something years ago that never got spent, you can pull it back into those buckets. We pulled about $80,000 back in, subject to some specifics confirmations, but I think we're going to get them all. And that money allowed us to also fund just about all of the requests that were made by the historic categories as well. On open space, I believe we funded one thing around open space. And there are every year, you got to do 10% each bucket, minimum of 10%. So the only one we didn't fully fund was, I believe we did 10,000 for the Norman Rockwell, because the type of thing they wanted could be, CPC couldn't do it. It was maintenance or something, or I don't know what it was, but we're doing it half of their request out of administrative funds because we had enough left. And the only other one was the library, because we ran out of money. We cut their request to 20,000 to 10 for the HVA system, only because this board gave them 100,000 to begin with. And that's my report.
Okay.
Sorry.
We have bundled these together. We have some openings on some committees. So if you're interested, so at the R, you hold a mic, right? You?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'd like to see people get involved in the town. We have an alternate for the Conservation Commission. And we have an opening for the Stockbridge Housing Authority tenant resident. And we have an opening on the Green Communities Committee. So those are the three committees. Like to have you interested, get a hold of Mike. And it'd be nice to have a few people who'll be interested in, so we have something to pick from, but I encourage people to get involved in the town and be part of it. Review and act upon Stockbridge Bow Lake Management Plan proposal for what is that? Limnology
Logical.
monitoring program.
Yeah, and the lake management plan.
I read that and I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, there's two plans in front of you. We have enough money. We have funds available to fund these projects. So what I need is just a vote from this board to authorize me to enter into contracts with GZA to perform both these functions.
I'll make a motion that we enter into.
You want,
Give Mike the permission to enter into the contracts.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
And this is our ongoing commitment for the bowl to make it a healthy for the environment, healthy for the
I don't know, we can't see who's on the call, but
community and for the whole lake itself. Okay, review.
So not seeing Michael, Nathan, Pamela, Boudreaux, Karen Marshall, Roxanne, Roxanne's on point.
Oh,
Lawrence, Beth,
is that the committee that did this?
Anita, Schwarner.
Are these committee members?
no, you might ask if anybody.
Vincent's still on and the highway's still on.
Up to you.
Was that the committee that did it? Or is that,
What's that?
who were those people
Those are all the people that are on.
the committee?
No, that are on Zoom right now.
Oh, hi. Any comments from any of that? I'm sorry, that's keep an open meeting, but getting late and I'm getting tired, so if I forget something, yell at me. Any comments for any of that from the public that we just did the last few times? Seeing none, thank you. Grant, you want to hold off on this or you want to?
We're gonna sign these.
I only put the grant on because I came in, I heard somebody talk about the charging station. I think we should enable Michael to apply for it, or I'll apply for it. But I just see if we can get a free charging station from the state, why wouldn't we do it?
Well,
Well, you still have to figure out where we're gonna place it, what
Well, that's one reason.
things.
Like Mike said,
Logistics of the program.
these grants,
And I know it's last minute, Patrick, I will tell you, this comes up every year, this one,
Right.
the electric charging.
it's got a
station.
deadline.
So it's
of
not
March
something
19th.
that, yeah, it's gonna be with so many things, I don't know if
rather
I,
than rush, I think it's something that also, that the public needs to be engaged. And it's something that's gonna need to be discussed, because you've got to figure out all kinds of things in terms of being in compliance. And where are you gonna put it? And how does the public feel about it? And I think we're gonna get another chance, and we're all really busy already, so.
All right.
and
I mean, or
yeah, we're not saying no,
just
but
apply for one and then, you guys could realize that we can't do it and, we can make it happen with that.
oh, now that you brought that up, discussion of alternative use of the Sears Street grant.
Well, that was Mike, that was all Michael's doing, not me.
That I gave you.
yeah.
That was not me, Chuck. That was all on town hall.
We were going to transfer this money to the.
So the state has said that if we could come back with an acceptable use within the program, we can alter the use. Originally, they were saying you couldn't.
Yeah.
Locally, they said you couldn't. Went up the chain a little bit. They said we'd rather see a way for the town to use the funds. So if we can come up with an option. So a couple of the options are using it toward getting additional trash cans, recycling, alternatives on Main Street. So
This is the one.
Dan has found different dispensers and cans for us to consider placing into this program. There was still some leftover money, and some of the things I brought up could be some solar lighting, wayfaring signs on the main street, like going down Elm Street, getting some solar lighting on that so it would shine, so it'd be a little better illuminated. So I think we can easily come up with this.
So the
So
trashy compactor things that are solar, because that was, I mean.
Yeah, that kind of.
They're hugely expensive,
Yeah.
Are they more than 19 grand?
and they're
No.
really ugly. What, you want to buy one? I mean, no, I've got, so.
I have one in Lennox, I think.
Out here, okay, and
All right.
if I can get share screen going, if I can share the screen, maybe I can bring up so people can look.
So it turns out it was a good idea to apply for the grant.
Yes, thank you, thank you. It's-
I kept saying, if we could ever figure this out, a way to.
Well, I would,
I just
like-
wanted the little picture. What can I say?
I would like to make a motion that we use this money for, now this adding more or just taking,
No, they're not gonna add more. They just take what we have.
no,
Figure
figure money.
an
Is
appropriate
this replacing, adding more trash cans or is this we buying what we were
Yeah.
gonna buy?
I'm trying to see if I can do it, Roxanne.
Let me go through it.
Uh,
Yeah, but you're not gonna have this document. I've got it on this.
right, I'm
computer.
trying to see if
I'm
I.
trying to say, Roxanne, is this, with the money we have already,
Is Steve still on that? He
adding to.
Allow Roxanne to share?
Place of that money.
No, we can use this grant money to
Yes,
buy
what do you need, Mike?
cans
How we're gonna use it.
and do other things.
So that money that we
Oh, Steve.
get returned
What, Steve?
Put aside,
for the trash cans, that would be.
Roxanne, you should be, I think Steve said you should be able to now.
okay, hopefully I can get to it. Yeah, there's what it is. Share screen.
So so basically it's coming, this board has to agree on what I am submitting to them to request. Trash cans do, wayfaring signs do. So the ones that we brought up right now all fit within the criteria, but we have to write a letter to the state explaining how we're gonna use the funds and how it still fits within the criteria of the shared streets.
I'll make a motion that Roxanne, and maybe if you want to look at them, pick out the cans.
I already have done all this.
So
That's
we're
why
done
I
with
wanted
that.
to finalize tonight.
So we're done. So I'll make a motion that we move forward with this, with the recommendations of Roxanne's. You know, she has the talent to pick up the garbage cans.
But we're not just doing garbage cans, or is that what the idea is?
Garbage cans, wayfaring signs, and what was the other? Roxanne, you had one other item?
I wanted people to see this, but
Yeah, wait, no, let's do it. Let's just get
If you
it.
can't get it up, put it on the website.
I can't focus. I'm sorry.
All right.
So I'll make a
Just take
motion that,
second And be quiet and let her pull it up. I want to see it.
So.
oh, if you can't pull it up, I'll make a motion that we go forward with this recommendation.
Well,
We had
let's-
come up
let
with
me just-
15,000.
Can I just go through
Yep,
like
go
a
ahead.
little bit of like the overview of this then, because I'm not gonna be able to bring this up, my head hurts. But basically I went through and I looked at today what we have downtown. And so on your little thing here, the little red dots are what we already have. And we have various issues that have to be addressed in addition. I.e., we have 2 of these trash bins that actually have handicap signs on them, which of course is not ADA compliant. And one of them has a doggy pot, you know, it's got the dog
Talking about this.
plastic bags. Yep. So
Excellent.
anyway, so right now, we have, and what we have right now are roughly 53, 56 gallon right here receptacles. And those bags, I guess, are costing us a lot of money, but we have a total of 8 of them in this downtown area that I'm showing for a total of 424 gallon capacity. So what I think we should propose is 13 42 gallon, which gives bigger capacity in the same area. But what we've got is side by side, you can do recycling, and I believe they're 8.5 inches square, so they're smaller than the new ones. So you can put a recycling unit right next to a trash bin. And so what I'm proposing is in front of Elm Street Market, where we have one now, we have a combination recycling and trash. Across the street in front of me, James, recycling and trash. But then we put another 42 gallon trash can in the near vicinity on each side of Elm Street. So it gives you a little more capacity. And then along Main Street as well, putting recycling where it's probably the most needed. So in front of Main Street Cafe and in front of the Lost Lamb.
Okay.
And so on. So anyway, it ends up, and we might be able to buy a little bit of extra, but I've given you the copy of.
This is $9,000 out of a $15,000 grant. Do we have something else to spend $6,000 on?
Else, we figured add solar lighting to the wayfaring, you probably figure that's gonna be at least 1,000 to 1,500 if we put them on different signage, go with nice quality parts, so that's getting us up toward 11. We talked about buying a couple extra
Right.
barrels in order to replace in case there's anything.
Add if needed.
And also the dog waste
Oh, yeah.
because they attach. So we've got one on Main Street now
Mhm.
that has it, that can get redeployed to a park.
Get 8 of them or something. We need more of those.
However, we would probably, there's no reason, and the dog waste systems are like $112.
I'm on all of them.
I think,
So we could put them on all of them.
yeah,
Or certainly, many of them.
Every other one.
yeah.
Right. So there's plenty of money.
Yeah, I think there's a motion on the table then. Is that all right? I second it.
Or second.
So we're good.
So we're motioning the,
Go ahead, Mike.
And we adjust the street one program
Right.
in order to purchase trash cans, additional.
doggy pooper bags, whatever you come up with.
And Hugh, we'll give you a map of where these all are so you can pick them up. We'll give you a map of all these containers are so you guys can pick them up without missing any.
All right, yeah, we'll
Last thing,
That's
this
joking.
amount.
put in a GPS.
So
Thank you, Hugh, your budget and everything. Thank you for everything. Thank you for
next
all you're
Tuesday,
doing.
oh, sorry.
Before you
One-
adjourn,
Hold
One
on,
thing
I'm not
to say-
adjourning yet, because I gotta mention this thing. Next Tuesday and Wednesday, where the MVP program is hosting these listening sessions for senior housing issues for the future. So if you have any ideas or concerns about either your own house or downsizing or how you're gonna continue to live in Stockbridge, or whether you want to say adios to us because you've had enough, whatever you want to do, there's 2 opportunities. One in the afternoon, which is, I believe, Wednesday afternoon, 2:00, is it? And Tuesday evening at 6:00, or is it the other way around?
I mean,
You put it on the website.
we've handed them out. We have them over at the,
Yeah. Just come and tell us what you think about senior housing. And this is paid for by the state grant around the MVP program. So, let's get our money's worth. Come and talk to us.
can I ask a question? It's Christine Rasmussen.
Yes,
And-
you may.
Christine,
I've been on, but I couldn't raise my hand for some reason.
You
So
can't see anybody raising their hand. You gotta holler.
Announcing that.
You just gotta yell.
I haven't.
you guys are too loud. I can't speak that loud. Back to the zoning proposals, and my concern is that if you decided tonight not to recommend those back to the planning board for us to advertise the hearing, it appears that if I look at my calendar, we will have to wait until the planning board meeting, because we only meet every other week and we really can't have extra meetings. So, and we don't meet the 4th or 5th Tuesday of the month. So it would probably be the 6th before we can vote to advertise. Then it takes, because it takes a week to get the ad in, and then we have to
Christine.
advertise it for 2 weeks.
excuse
we
me,
will not-
Christine,
Pardon?
are you under the impression we are not referring it to the planning board? Because we did vote to refer it to the planning
No,
board.
we didn't.
No, you didn't,
voted
not
to table
the
it.
3 of
We
them.
didn't, yeah.
Well, not all of them, but, so you're
Right,
talking about all of these?
Well, I'm just telling you, we will not be able to hold our hearing until May 4th. So that becomes somewhat difficult if during the hearing, we hear testimony and we want to make changes to get it on the town meeting warrant, because I'm under the impression that the warrant is going to close about that date.
Well, we have
And
14 days,
according
Christine.
to 6.2.1 of the zoning, that hotels do have to offer parking places. And they would certainly have to do that if they tried to enlarge an existing structure. So I really am very disappointed after over a year that we're getting to this point in the process. And because we didn't get it referred back, and you certainly can talk during the public hearing, but it's going to make it very difficult now to get this on the town meeting warrant. And that
Can
becomes
we run through the schedule for a second?
because if we're not on the town meeting warrant to change these bylaws when the governor takes off his restrictions that the businesses are open on right now, they will not be protected.
We have 14 days to refer them. We're gonna refer it by next Thursday. And the meeting is until May 18th. I believe we have enough time to do all the steps, don't we, Michael, or not?
It has to be on the warrant.
I'm asking Michael.
So, right, we have, the select board has 14 days. It gets referred to the planning board. Then the planning board holds their hearing, then 21 days, they have to issue their report back to town meeting with any recommendation.
The public hearing somewhere in there.
And the public hearing somewhere in there. So, yeah.
So the April 6th and 21 days is April 27th. That gives us almost a month.
They theoretically, and I'll double check this, but I would think that they could authorize, knowing that they're gonna be referred to on the 18th, they could have prepared Jen to have to notify the paper upon referral by the select board at their meeting next Tuesday. They could make a motion that on referral from the select board meeting on the 18th, we'll set the meeting or the publication. They could set a date for it and then have Jen post it.
Christine makes an excellent point, though. What happens if the parking bylaw is in conflict with 6.2.1? Which one?
Well, no, we've tried to
Which one holds?
handle that. We've had a planner work on this. So we've been assured Donna has reviewed everything we sent to you. We did not send it to you until it was in Donna's hands. She went through it. She made her final changes, then Phil made his changes. So what we have is what the planning board got from legal counsel and a professional planner. The problem with the hearing notice is we cannot just put a hearing notice in that we're doing an amendment to this section of the bylaw without giving people adequate notice as to what we're doing. And since we're not going to have the language from you, we cannot actually get the bylaw ready.
We keep been quoting what the law tells us we can and can't do. The law gives us 14 days to review these bylaws, and my strong position is that we take our 14 days.
And I'm just telling you, don't expect it to be done now in time for the
You should've got it done
town
earlier.
meeting warrant, depending on when the town meeting warrant closes. And all we asked was you refer what there was, you could offer amendments during the hearing.
Up to you guys.
Want to go ahead and approve these?
Well, the only issue,
Worry about the amendments that they.
the only issue we have with the parking is the inn, correct?
Yeah.
Do they,
The issue we have is that they're not anything like what we expected them to be. It's like you just said.
The only sticking point here, Christine, which we don't understand, or at least I don't understand, if Donna Brewer looked at this, if you look at 6.2.1 general regs, under B, it says all establishments outside of the business zoning district must comply with the following requirements. And number one is hotel. However, under A, business district, no off-street parking spaces shall be required for establishments within the business zoning district, including the hotel. And that was always kind of, when Patrick would bring it up, that was always the response in the planning board meetings was that, well, the hotels are already covered under their own section. And so that was the confusing part in this.
are they covered under their own section, Christine, or?
I'm not willing to go, well, I can vote against if you guys want to. I want our 14 days.
Christine,
Yes,
did you hear us?
not really.
Okay, hang on one sec, listen.
The only sticking point in this, Christine, is that the hotels were always covered and they always were required in a separate space. And I don't know where that is now, because this doesn't resemble the current bylaw. But they always had to have parking. And so really it was in the business district, no off-street parking spaces shall be required for establishments is fine as long as the hotel was covered with parking, that it still was required to have parking. So this does not read that way.
I don't have the language in front of me. We've just got off another Zoom meeting before this meeting started, and I haven't had time to bring it up to look at it. But my impression was that and I wish we had put Phil on here, but obviously I didn't realize that this was going to be a controversial issue.
It's not controversial. We just want clarity.
No, we just need to understand it, because the way it reads is outside of the business zoning district, here's who has to comply. And it goes through hotel, accessory home occupation, manufacturing or wholesale establishments, multifamily dwelling, eating establishments, religious uses, and so on and so forth. So every use is here outside of the business zoning district. But we don't have any hotels, at least right now, outside of the busy,
Wheatley.
We're
regulating Wheatley.
I guess, yeah.
But they're
Wheatley.
in their own.
So all it's doing is exempting the Red Line Inn from having to have parking.
And,
It's a week.
and if I can just throw one thing out, Christine, just because the select board is gonna wait till next Thursday, at your next Tuesday meeting, you could still establish the dates for your public hearing contingent on the board referring it to you, which they have to refer it to you. They just may refer with comments.
And the comment is red light in parking, so you guys can work on that Tuesday meeting.
Well, and I don't really
We're
have
gonna
a
change
problem with it. Patrick has a problem with that because I don't believe that any hotel no business is going to survive if they have private parking and they decide they want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's a death knell to any business, especially in a town that doesn't have much parking. So I don't really have a big issue with it.
I just do not know if we
Roxanne?
advertise and then you change the requirements and then.
Christine, they can't
Tuesday-
change the requirement.
But-
They can only refer it to you with their comments.
But-
So,
But those comments will only become amendments at this point, the way I understand it. We
no,
have-
their comments will only go on the record for the hearing from the
Right.
select board.
Right,
That's it.
So the only comment we have for the parking is,
No,
does this include the red line in not have to have in their own parking in the back?
good spot. We need to not talk about a specific business. But Roxanne, I have a, what I would like you to do is to call Ray Miars and ask him as a planner to review this one issue, not the whole bylaw, not everything, this one issue. And let him express to you his opinion. And if you don't think it's an issue, I don't care, we just let it go. That's all I did. And
but
And on the
you
side
can,
note, I can work with Christine to get the language together so that the public meeting can be ready to go. Contingent on you guys passing it next Thursday, so they can.
we're gonna pass it.
Pass it
Wonder
next
if we were gonna add any suggested amendments,
It will be passed next Thursday, just what amendments.
Yeah. You just won't be able to post it. They won't be able to post it probably now until Monday or Tuesday, because they won't be getting it till Thursday.
right, and then
You get
it
it-
takes, we have to
What's it supposed to do
advertise
when?
it for 2 consecutive weeks. And it has to be before we can hold the hearing.
Right,
And then, so when you take all of those days together, and I don't, I mean, the language that I have always understood in the planning and zoning work I have done is that you refer it to the selectmen, so they're aware of it. But and then they refer it back to the planning board, and the planning board has the hearing. And then the selectmen can comment during the hearing process. And if they have anything to add, and then the bylaw can be recommended to the town meeting if we don't do such actions.
Right.
And with the recommendation, it can include any amendments that the planning board.
Look, I agree with that, Christine, but we're saying that if the board gets it to you on the 18th, you could have the publication, the notice in the paper by the 22nd, so you could have your meeting on the 6th. Or is that not a regular meeting night?
Can we just back up for a second here? We don't currently enforce the parking issue with the small businesses. I am not willing to rush our bylaw process.
No,
This
this timing.
is crazy.
Right.
This is a crazy way for us to think about changing the bylaws of this town. All right, stop, full stop. This, read what we're referring before we refer it.
You've got what we referred to you. You can amend it. We just asked that you send it back so we could get it as on the town meeting warrant.
We have 14 days.
With all the deadlines that we need.
It will
At
be,
this
because
point,
you
you
have time.
have to, you are required, as far as I know, to refer back the language that we sent you. It
Christine, if we
doesn't
don't make the
fall to
warrant,
your
I commit
comments.
to you, we will not enforce the parking bylaw as far as I'm concerned until we get this issue resolved. Even if we have to do a special town meeting in the fall. Nobody's gonna
But
have their business parking screwed up because if we can't make the deadline. If you guys can't make the deadline, we'll simply continue how we do it now, which is not negatively impacting a single business in the downtown business district.
Except once Charlie Baker's protections go off, then we are violating the law, and anyone can ask for enforcement action to remove the signs above the lost land.
This has nothing to do with signs.
What?
This has nothing to do with signs.
Well,
It's only to
but
do with parking.
we were going to do it as a package. So now we're going to have to try to deal with this. It just makes it so much more difficult.
And we'll have it to you, according to Mike's calendar, you have it in plenty of time to,
Board has till the 19th to respond. I
Yeah.
can't, that is a fact. It can't be on the 5th. You have till the 19th to refer back to the planning board.
they'll get it, they have plenty of time to advertise it and to have their open meeting and have it on the warrant.
Right.
And I will work with I will work with Christine to make sure that we can get the language, so if it passes on the 18th, that they can set their meeting, so we can meet the timelines in order to get it.
Right.
Yes.
And what I
Yes,
would like
Christine,
to
we'll-
clarify something here, because the three that I have here all are not coming from our town council, and they're not coming directly from the planning board. They're coming from BRPC. So is there some other version? And has town council approved this version?
Can we confirm that too?
Yes, town council approved this, Donna from our town council's office, and she has the history on this. You're going to go to Ray. Ray hasn't been working with Philip on these bylaws. And so we've been working with Donna to do the amendments. And we've been doing it for, we've heard these bylaw amendments every 2 weeks since you sent them to us in February of last year, Roxanne. So it just feels like we didn't even have to do the advertisement and go through this process, but because we have to apply to the absolute dot with everything the Attorney General requires, we decided to hold this new hearing and start the process all over again. Just because we wanted to make sure the AG did not find any issues with when we advertise, when we hold the public hearing, that we refer it to the selectmen. We just wanted to make sure everything was correct because the AG is known for rejecting bylaws. So, and if this doesn't go to the fall town meeting, then it takes the AG, right now, it's taking 3 months for her to issue her opinion because it's a very tedious, time-consuming process. So that's all I want to say.
Well, you will have plenty of time to hold your open meeting and be on the warrant for this meeting, correct? We got the
We won't
time.
have to close the warrant till the meeting, till basically May 1st.
Okay,
And there is already got language that we can move town meeting, and that's something we're gonna put on the agenda for the next one. Because whether or not, if we're gonna hold it, we need to hold it on a Saturday if we have to hold it outside. So there's a couple things coming up that town meeting may get pushed back anyways.
yeah, if you got to hold it outside, the meeting's most likely going to be in June. I'll give us more time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
You'll get it
you
back.
have plenty of time to hold your meetings and have this on the this annual town meeting. Okay,
Thank you.
we'll make sure of that. Anybody else out there? We done? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Bye.